So dear friends, month of July, the month of rains, the month of greenery, but we are also scared of too much of rains that might cause damage. Already in Bangalore, we have seen scenes where people have been stranded. The waters cannot go out, the drains are choked, and sometimes perhaps even the house collapses, etc. take place. We give our support to these people and we pray to God that we may have good rains, a good rainy season, but at the same time not damaging anybody. Let me take you to the message of the week, the gospel of the day. It's a beautiful gospel that gives us certain situations in our life wherein God enters and enters very forcefully. As with the gospel, perhaps I can divide it into three parts. Gospel of Matthew chapter 11. The first part where Jesus praises, blesses and thanks God that He has trust in the little people, as it were. That He has revealed certain things to certain people, and this confidence that He has in us is surely a matter of thanksgiving. Secondly, Jesus also speaks about His relationship with the Father, an intimate relationship with the Father, a relationship of trust, of confidence, and therefore Jesus makes known about His relationship with the Father. And thirdly, Jesus' relationship with those that have the loved ones, as it were, the little ones, and having compassion on all of us. Let me first take to the first point, that Jesus blesses God, that He confides, or rather takes the children, the little ones, closer to Him. It's a beautiful way of saying that God has trust in the poor. God trusts that those who are humble and the meek. The humility and the meekness are considered as the Beatitudes. In the Gospel of Matthew chapter 5, we have this special Beatitudes that speak of the humility, the poverty, and the meekness. It's something that the world would consider as weakness. To be poor is not considered to be something blessed, because everyone tries to become rich. Everyone tries to gather and to collect things. But Jesus says, blessed are the poor. Blessed are the humble. Humble because, in your humility, you have nothing to boast. You have to open yourself and say that I am nothing. And that is why God resides in the heart of the humble, we say. He was Himself humble. In the last, His agony, when the soldiers treated Him like more than an animal as such. The way they stripped Him, perhaps it was the most humiliating moment for Him. But Jesus takes it in His stride. And we also speak of meekness. The quality of meekness is considered as weakness, because the meek, they don't assert themselves. They don't talk loud. They don't fight. Perhaps they are not even aware of what is their due. But the Beatitudes, Jesus says in the Beatitudes that perhaps they may not worry, they may not be, but God will be their protector. God will be the one who will lift them up. So therefore, today Jesus thanks God, blesses Him for these little people who are poor, who are humble, who are meek, so that for them are given the secrets of the kingdom of heaven. It's very true. It's very true that the world trusts these people. The world trusts them because they have nothing of their own to show off, nothing of their own to give off, and that is why the world trusts them very much. The second part of today's reading is Jesus' intimate relationship with the Father. We have heard Him say, the Father and I are one. One who knows me knows the Father. So therefore this intimacy between the Father and the Son, as it were, which is not just what we call vocal, but it comes from deep. That Jesus trusts his Father, that he calls him so many times. In the Gospel of Luke, we find Jesus very often going to those lonely places to pray. Was there a need of prayer? Should he have gone again, or gone astray, gone alone to places like this? But we see that this is intimate relationship with the Father that necessitated for him to pray often. Even in his sufferings and the Garden of Gethsemane, when he says, Father, take away this chalice from me. It's a prayer that comes from the heart, from the bottom of the heart. Take this chalice away from me, but not my will, your will be done. So this is the intimacy that Jesus has with the Father. The third part is, come to me all who labor, who are burdened, and I will refresh you. Take my yoke upon you, because I am humble and simple of heart. Beautiful words. This meekness, this weakness as it were, Jesus comes to our aid. And just as the relationship with the Father and the Son is so intimate, Jesus wants to establish that relationship with us. And therefore, those beautiful words, take upon yourself my burden, my yoke as it were. And so Jesus makes our yoke, our burden light, because he's the one ultimately who not only takes our burdens, but also carries us. The example of the saints is very much enriching. How much they trusted God. And not just in their moments of joy, but also in the moments of sorrow. To lay upon the Lord as it were, they unburden themselves at the feet of the Lord. We have that beautiful example, or rather recounting of St. Catherine. She was supposed to be close to Jesus in her prayer, and many a time she found consolation in her prayers. And so when she was also tempted and she was struggling with her own, perhaps, inner turmoils, she went to Jesus. And one particular day or night, she's supposed to have dreamt that she was in high turmoil, high temptations. And that is the time suddenly she sees footsteps in front of her, and she sees that at a certain distance there are two sets of footsteps, and then suddenly there's only one set of footsteps, and she concludes that Jesus did not help her or support her, come close to her when she was struggling. And so she complains to Jesus and says, she is very clear, you see these two sets of footsteps, and both of us are walking together, and after that there's only mine. And Jesus smiles at her in her dream and says, child, those two steps, of course, we both of us together, and the single steps is not yours, it's mine. And where were you that time? I was carrying you in your struggles, in your problems. And that's why she realizes that God doesn't abandon us. We can unburden ourselves before him. So my dear friends, I know that many of our people are troubled. Even when we have things and belongings and perhaps many luxuries or conveniences, we can still be lonely at heart. We can be heavy at heart. And that's the time perhaps we have to rely on the Lord and ask him to take our burdens, to unburden us, and he will be the happiest one if we trust him to take our burdens, so that we may be not only feel light, but also we can walk better and go a long way.